All right, so earlier this week, I gave a breakdown of which top Georgia commitments and targets on offense were taking their official visits to Georgia this weekend. And of course, this video is all about defense. Which top defensive targets and commitments are going to be in Athens this weekend for their official visits. And to be honest, this is the biggest part of this weekend for the Georgia staff because, in my opinion, there are a number of top defensive targets that Georgia has to make up room for. They're going to be in town with their family, face to face with the Georgia staff on their official visit. So this is a weekend where you could see possibly multiple 5-stars, take Georgia from, maybe the middle of the pack of their recruitment towards the top to the very top. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Georgia made some serious momentum with some of these targets that I'm about to talk about right now. So let's jump right into it. Let's start on the defensive line. There are multiple defensive line targets in town. Williams and Warney, number 6 overall prospect in the country. I'm hearing that Tennessee probably right now is the current leader behind the scenes. He's been linked to Oklahoma since the very beginning of his recruitment. Trey Scott went to check on him, watch him practice this spring. Georgia's in the mix. I think he likes Georgia, but they have some ground to make up here. This is an elite prospect, 56 tackles, 10 TFLs, 12 sacks last year, 6'6", 260, with the ability to put on more mass, more muscle. He's only going to get better, and I think this is a big weekend for the Georgia staff to, get him on campus, show him what Georgia is all about. Show him the trophies, show him the first rounders, and let him know that, hey, you can come in and make an impact early on the defensive line. We rotate a lot of guys. You could be part of something special. And I think there's a real chance that Georgia could surge up his list of schools, after this official visit. So that's a big one to know. Again, top 10 player in the country. He's a big, big deal. Dylan Stewart, 5-star edge defender, number 9 overall prospect in the country. Georgia's been firmly in the mix from what I've been told, but Ohio State is very much in the mix. Alabama is very much in the mix. And South Carolina is a team that I continue to hear about that he's very high on. So Georgia has a real fight on their hands. And it might be tough for Coach Drebe, who coaches the outside linebackers, to get those elite edge defenders. I wrote about this on Dawg Post. You can go check it out. But when you bring in 5-star Marvin Jones 2 cycles ago, and last year you bring in 3 big-time pass-rushing edge defenders, Gabe Harris, Sam Mpemba, and Damon Wilson. So it makes sense why some of these elite, number 1, number 2, number 3 edge defenders are saying, hey, you just brought in a bunch of dudes who are going to probably play early on. I want to go somewhere where I can play. But he still has Georgia in the mix. Dylan Stewart, 6'5", 240, 16 sacks last year. He plays out of the D.C. area. He's a big guy, that Georgia fans need to keep an eye on. And this visit, I think, needs to go very, very well if they want to jump past Alabama, jump past Ohio State, and probably jump past South Carolina. I think Georgia's probably running 4th or 3rd right now. But behind the scenes, I continue to hear that, Dylan Raiola, as big as he was, to get on board publicly, and he's going to help with wide receivers. He's already helped with tight ends and offensive linemen. There are a lot of defensive guys across the country who are saying, hey, if I go to Georgia, I know that they're going to put up points. I know that I can help the defense. I know I'm going to be playing for championships. This is a program that has it going both offense and defense. I know I'm going to be developed as a defender because no one's doing it better right now, especially at linebacker and on the defensive line than Trey Scott, Glenn Schumann, and the Georgia Bulldogs. But a lot of them have noticed, hey, they just landed a 5-star quarterback too, and they're landing the number 1 tight end, and they've got the fastest running back in the country committed. This is a program that's going to score, and that's only going to help me out. Dylan Stewart might be one of those guys that is paying attention to what's happening on offense as well. Justin Scott, 5-star defensive lineman. This will be his first trip to Athens that I'm aware of. I've been told that Georgia's been in the mix for a while, even though he's never been on campus. He's the number 8 prospect in the country. Big, big deal out of Chicago. I think Miami is the team probably leading the race right now. They're using NIL as well as anyone. They are throwing dollar signs at these kids with promises that, hey, you can make this amount this year, this amount next year. Don't want to go into details of what Miami's doing, but that's the only way they're getting these big-time programs. Miami doesn't matter. They are irrelevant in college football. Nobody cares. The only way they're getting these 5-star guys and, in some cases leading for a guy like Justin Scott is through NIL. But Georgia, I think, has to play that angle a little bit, show him that he can do very well with NIL at Georgia, but also say, hey, Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Devonta Wyatt, we've pumped out first rounders consistently, at least over the last 2 years. and they could have more on the way too. And you could be that next guy in 3 to 4 years. So they've got to show that these, interior defensive linemen that, hey, just look at the board. Look what we're doing. Look at these championships. Look at these trophies, these rings. Look at the dollar amounts that these guys are signing in the NFL. We can do that for you. I know NIL is important and we can help you out there, but the NFL dollars are a lot more than the NIL dollars. So they're going to have to prove that to Justin Scott and his family on campus. And it would not surprise me if they surged on his list after a successful official visit to Georgia with him and his family on board. First time seeing Athens. He's going to be there for 3 days. I would not be surprised if Georgia had plenty of momentum with Justin Scott after this official visit. Just something to keep an eye on. Notre Dame's also in the mix. Michigan, Ohio State. He's visited those schools before, but a big visit here in Athens, I think, is going to go a long, long way. An in-state guy to know, Justin Green out of Mountain View High School.
What is it that makes something?
Sorry about that. Georgia offered him a little later in the process after schools like Florida and Auburn, South Carolina, but it seems like he has climbed up their board. 6'4", 260, did not exactly light up the stat sheet for Mountain View, but he looks the part physically, and I think Georgia is a team with plenty of momentum with him right now. They've had him on campus multiple times this year already. With a big official visit to start the month of June, I think Georgia has a chance to take a real commanding lead for, a solid mid 4-star guy for me. I think he's a top 20 player in the state of Georgia. A lot of potential. I think he's only going to get better. He's only scratching the surface of what he can be. But he's a really good player, solid player. And I think if Georgia continues to push for him, I have a hard time, seeing them not get Justin Green, if that makes sense. So he's an in-state 4-star interior guy at 6'4", 260. I do think he'll play inside. Might start off on the edge in certain situations, play out there, but I think he's more of an inside guy. As he gets older, develops, puts on more muscle, and I think Georgia is the team to beat for him. Joseph Phillips, hard-hitting linebacker, 6'2", 235 from Alabama, 75 tackles, 19 TFLs, 9 sacks, 16 quarterback hurries, and he recovered 4 fumbles last year. Booker T. Washington High School in Alabama. I think Auburn has been the team training, but this kid was in Athens just 2 weekends ago for the scavenger hunt on an unofficial visit. He's back in town for his official this weekend. Big deal. Number 10 linebacker in the country, number 8 prospect in Alabama, number 126 in the country. I think if Georgia gives him the green light to jump on board, right now I think he has that. I think Georgia could be the team to beat, especially after this official visit. So I know Auburn is the team with the most, momentum. They've kind of been the leader behind the scenes. But I think after this weekend, wouldn't surprise me if Georgia passed Auburn, and were able to land his commitment. Wouldn't surprise me at all. As far as commitments go, Ellis Robinson, 5-star cornerback. Length, man, that guy. I saw a picture of him. I think someone posted from the On3, whatever they're doing in Nashville this weekend. He's standing there. That dude could scratch his knee standing up. I need to ask him that if he can do that. But that's how long his wingspan is. It is crazy. Terrific ball skills. Had 8 interceptions as a sophomore at Iona Prep in New York. Played at IMG Academy last year. Top 10 player in the country for a reason. Obviously committed to Georgia. I think he's firmly committed to Georgia, but watch Miami here. They're going to push hard for him. They're not going to stop in their pursuit of him. They want to flip him badly. I think that's the only team that Georgia somewhat has to worry about. Again, I think NIL could come into play. I think that has him, paying attention to Miami, and he's going to take an official visit to Coral Gables next weekend. So, when you're taking an official visit somewhere, that team still has a slight chance at least, but Georgia has to show him, hey, we put DeAndre Baker in the league in the first round. Eric Stokes was a first rounder. Tyson Campbell barely made it out of the first round. They've pumped out cornerbacks really well. Keely Ringo had first round talent, but an injury was what, had him slip further and further into the draft. But they could pump out cornerbacks, and they, have done pretty well in the NFL so far. Maybe not DeAndre Baker, but Stokes and Campbell have obviously both made plenty of plays. So, definitely one to keep an eye on. But I do think Georgia is going to sign him in the end. But Miami's pushing. Peyton Woodward, 4-star safety from California. He's going to be in town for his official visit. Same thing. I think he wants to play at Georgia. I think he's firmly committed, but I wouldn't call it 100%. He's going to take official visits to USC June 9th, Ohio State June 16th, Alabama June 23rd. There's been some rumblings that he might decide to open things up and give Alabama or Ohio State a second look. It wouldn't surprise me. But I do think that he wants to be a Bulldog. He's got family ties to the state of Georgia. Met him and his father back in the spring at a 7-on-7 tournament. They love what Kirby Smart and the defensive staff are doing with this program right now. So I think Georgia is going to sign him, but he's going to take some official visits as well. And then DeMello Jones, 4-star safety cornerback from Swainsboro. He's been committed to Georgia since March 17th. Took a recent visit to Tennessee. I think Tennessee's trying to flip him. And then he's got an official visit to Alabama lined up for June 9th. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. He's committed. He has told me he loves Georgia and he's all in. But, I mean, you're taking a visit to Tennessee and you got an official lined up to Alabama. So Georgia's going to have to hold on to him. They really like him. Two-way player out of Swainsboro. Big-time running back at the high school level. But he is an instinctive, ball-hawking defensive back that I think the Georgia staff really likes. They're going to have to hold on to him. So defensively, multiple 5-stars, big-time commitments, big-time targets. And this is a big weekend for Georgia to really gain some momentum on a few guys that I think they're kind of trailing for right now. So plenty of prospects. You can read more about these guys over on Dawg Post. The story's already up. Make sure you pick up Double Dogs. Do it for Father's Day. It's a great gift for your dad who's a big Georgia fan. It was a special season, undefeated, 2022. We've got the book that covers it all. Pictures that you will not see anywhere else because we took them from angles that no one else was there. I was looking around, taking some shots. There was no one else there. So a lot of those pictures you will never see anywhere else except for Double Dogs. So make sure you check that out. Sign up to the newsletter. Pumping out content left and right, a lot of recruiting stuff going on. Make sure you check us out over the website. Thanks for watching this video. As always, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now, and I will see you over on Dawg Post.